walk as the board gets owned. Welcome to Dad's Drafts, your new homegrown.
Hello good people and welcome to another episode of Dad's Drafts, especially my one new subscriber, which brings the total to 160. That's about 160 more than I thought before I started this channel. Anyway, great to have you here. We're not going to do draft today. I want to do a quick recap about my predictions about the best commons and uncommons of the new set Eye of Eternity, and I want to see if it actually worked out or if I was in the wrong. And if I was in the wrong, if so, where? And also, how could that be? Not there's anything wrong with being wrong, but of course, my prediction, some people took it quite literally, and I think it's important to also be critical of yourself. Now, for this, I use the site 17Lands.com, which you should probably also use, which puts all the statistics of all the people playing that actually also have the add-on installed, and it ranks it all by win rate and things like that. Now, there were 4 cards pretty much for each color that I thought that were good, and I want to look at them quickly, the ones that I mentioned, and if they are actually among the best commons and uncommons in the set. So I want to start with white, and at the top one, and if you also want, you can take 17lands.com, you can open it and you can check for yourself. The best uncommon for white is Banishing Light. Now, Banishing Light was the one that I also predicted would be number 1. The second one, the second best, which has a win rate of 57.6% at the moment, is Night Luminary, which was also in my top commons. Focus Fire is also one that I mentioned, but the fourth one is actually Radiant Strike. And Radiant Strike is this: instant speed, destroy target artifact or tapped creature, you gain 3 life. This is actually the 4th card and not the one that I actually mentioned, the Dog Worker Drone. But the Dog Worker Drone is 5th, and it's only less than 1%. It's actually a bit more than a 0.5% win rate, so it could still change. But it seems that I was a bit off there, but overall, I must say, I was very close to getting them all right. Radiant Strike is indeed a very good card. The reason that I didn't put it in is simply because I thought 4 mana was maybe too expensive. But there are apparently enough artifacts in the set to mainboard it, which is pretty much what people do. Now we'll continue to blue. And we have at the top, and I think I also mentioned it would be one of the best, Cryogen Relic, which is the blue artifact. And it's actually got the highest win rate, almost 60%, which means it's a very strong card. It was also in my top commons. At the second place, there's Self-Crafted Mechan. I have played with this card, but I didn't put it in the best uncommons because I thought that it would often just be a 4 mana 3/4, but there's so much artifact fodder that you can actually sacrifice to this that it turns out that eventually this is most often of the times just a 4/5 draw card, which is very strong. So this one I should have put in my best uncommons, but the reason that I didn't was because I thought there was not enough stuff to actually sacrifice. Next one is Divert Disaster. It's a 2 mana counterspell, which was also not in my top list, which is pretty much just a 2 mana counterspell, and the opponent can pay 2 more. If they do, you actually get something out of it. Now at the 4th one, there's Cryo Shatter, which was in my top picks. Lost in Space at the 5th place, also one in my best commons. And the only one missing is the Ilvoy Gillblade, but that's actually at the 5th place. So the only one I missed out on was the Mechan, and all the other ones were actually correct. Now let's go to black. With black, I thought the best uncommons were going to be, commons, sorry. Decode Transmissions, Graph Kill, Graph Pack Monolith, and Depressurize. And the best one is actually Depressurize. So I was correct there. At the second place, it's Virus Beetle. Now, I didn't put Virus Beetle too highly because in the last set, it actually wasn't as good as people thought. But maybe now it's better simply because it's an artifact creature. And it performs in pretty much any set simply because of the type, which maybe makes it a bit better than I had expected. Then there is Graph Pack Monoist, which was also in my top commons. There's Graph Kill, which was also in my top commons. And I'm missing one, which is the Deco Transmissions. And the Deco Transmissions does have a higher than 50% win rate, but it's actually somewhere at the 9th spot. So that's where I was wrong. Better cards than the Deco Transmissions are, for instance, the Pedigree Beckoner with the Enter the Battlefield, return something tapped. It's absolutely crazy. Hull Carver, 1 mana, 1/1 Death Touch, also very strong. Beamsaw Protector, also getting very high win rate. And of course Embrace Oblivion. All these cards were higher win rate than I had thought. And Deco Transmissions, eventually not as high as I thought it would be. So that's one off. Let's go to red. And we had Bombard, the Pangolin, the Zookeeper and the Plasma Bolt. But the number 1 in red is actually Orbital Plunge, which is a 4 mana sorcery, deals 6 damage, and if excess damage was caused, create a lander token. Now the reason I didn't put this one is because I thought it was too expensive, but as you can see from the red and probably also the green, there's so much ramp in here that actually it was much easier to play them than I had anticipated. So for instance Orbital Plunge, but also Nebula Dragon, it's a 7-drop. Those two have among the highest win rates of the red commons, and I didn't put them in my list. Goes as well for the Landkeeper. Now with the Zookeeper I was right, it was in my top 4 and it's the 4th highest card with a win rating. And then in between there's Melted Moxite, which is a very high win rate card as well, 55.7%. And I didn't put this too high simply because I thought it would cost you 2 cards. It costs you this card and you discard something. But apparently the artifact theme is so much supported that this goes well into pretty much any deck because you have to have fodder to sacrifice. Now the other ones I was actually correct on because the remaining 3 are in the following 3, Plasma Bolt, Bombard and Pangolin in that order, are all still in the above 50% win rate, with the Pangolin being at 53.6, being the lowest. And now for the last color, green. I had the Diplomatic Relations, Galactic Wayfinder, Sami's Curiosity and the Gene Pollinator. And Galactic Wayfinder is actually one of the highest green common win rate card. It almost has 60%, so you should definitely play this as I also taught you to. But in between the other one, which I thought, and Gene Pollinator is number 3. At number 2 there's Biosynthetic Burst, which is this 2 mana +1 counter on target creature you control against reach, trample and indestructible until end of turn. Untap it. I've actually been blown out by this card. I didn't put it too highly because I thought it was too expensive for 2 mana, because there's of course 1 mana green Snakeskin Veils, which don't do as much, but I think it would still be better as this. But apparently I was wrong. This seems to be better than the most Snakeskin Veils, even though it's 1 more expensive. And maybe it also has to do with the fact that it puts a counter on something, and of course there's a lot of stuff which cares about counters, so it's actually pretty decent. It has a 58.1 at the moment. Now the next few cards, there's Gene Pollinator, as I thought I was right on that one, but in between the next Diplomatic Relations, which I mentioned, there's 2 more cards which I didn't, which is Thawbringer, which is a 4/2 for 3. When it enters or dies, reveal 1. I don't think it's the enter or die trigger. I think it's the fact that you can station spaceships with this very easily, which makes it a very high win rate card. And of course 4 power blocks a lot. And the Icegrave Crasher, and I've played with this if you've seen one of my first drafts, it's an amazing card. 4 mana for a 4/4 trample with landfall. It's very solid. The thing that actually pumped this up, I think, is the trample, because it's very easy to push through damage with this one. And you see it a lot because it's a common. Now I had mentioned 1 more card, but it's actually not as high as I thought, and that is the Sami's Curiosity, which is the one that I mentioned, a 1 mana sorcery, gain 2 life, create a lander token. I think it's still very good. It nearly has a 55% win rate, but it's not as good as I thought. So that's one that I was actually wrong about. Now we go to the uncommons. In my top 4 white uncommons, I had these following cards. I had Rayblade Trooper, Starfield Shepherd, All Fate Stalker, and the Seam Rip. Now the only one not being in the top 4 is the Seam Rip, which is I think 6th, I guess. Let me check. I actually can't find it. No, it's way further down. It still has a positive win rate, but it turns out it was not as good as I thought. Another card which did actually, the other three are the top 3 cards. The next one is Dual Sun Adapt, which is a 2/2 double striker for 3, which has an Anthem effect you can do. But I was right 3 out of 4 times, which I must say is not a bad one. Now let's get to blue. For blue I had Specimen Freighter, Tractor Beam, Mechan Assembler and the Code Tracker Hound. And the Code Tracker Hound is actually, as I also pretty much expected, the best blue uncommon there is. Simply because it's strictly better. What is it again? The one from Dragonstorm with the warp ability. Only the second one on 17Lands is Mouth of the Storm, which is a 7-drop. You can see it on the screen. The reason I didn't put it in was because it's 7 mana. Now apparently it is still very good, simply because there's a lot of ramp in this set. You can tap stuff for mana, for instance in red, but of course the lander tokens make it way easier to, well, at least play this 7-drop on turn 6, maybe even turn 5. And apparently that has such an effect that, I didn't think it would be as high, but it is very high. Another one, which is very high and I didn't expect it to, is the Earth's Psionicist. My goodness. It's a 2/4 flying. The second spell you cast each turn is 2 less to cast. It has a win rate of 58.4%. And then afterwards we have the Tractor Beam. I did also put that one in my list. Now the only one missing is the Specimen Freighter, and the Specimen Freighter is actually 2, 4, 6, 8th on the list, but it has a win rate of 56.5. So I was not totally off. I'm still missing the Mechan Assembler. It's after that. So the Mechan Assembler and the Specimen Freighter were lower or less good as I expected, and the Mouth of Storm was actually better together with the Psychonicist, but still I was 50% right. Now we'll get to black. And for black I had the following 4 cards. I had the Monoist Circuit Feeder, Tragic Trajectory, Fold Out, and the Umbral Color Salad. But the top one is actually Dubious Delicacy, which is a great artifact. I think the reason that this is good is because it does everything you want. So I didn't put it in my list, and apparently I should have. Felgraf Ship is a 3/2, which is the second one. And at the third spot there's one that I also mentioned, which is the Monoist. Then there's Tragic Trajectory, which I also mentioned. And then at least the Umbral Colored Salad, which I also mentioned, is actually the 6th one, and then Vote Out. So there's 2 better uncommons in the top 4 as that I thought. So I was still about 50% right. Now we'll go to red, and I wasn't really sure about red. There is the Terra Pact Intimidator, which I didn't mention, which apparently is amazing. I remember that whenever I played it, I thought I should have put this in the uncommons because the stats are amazing. At worst, it's a 4/3, and it could still be a 2/1, but then you get 2 artifact tokens, the lander ones, and of course they do a lot of stuff with ramp, but also with artifact entering the battlefield. This one is an absolute beast. It almost has a win rate of 60%. Then there's the Territorial Bruntor, which I also put in my list. Then there's Cut Propulsion, which I also put in my list. Then there's Evasive Maneuvers, which I also put in my list. And then there's Caveron Harrier, which is the 1-drop, which you can tap and then get a token. And then after that there's System Override. So for red I was actually 75% right, and I'll take it. And then we'll get to green, which is the last color. The Glacier Godma, I did mention that one in the top 4 cards. Then the Larval Scoutlander, I also mentioned in the top 4. The Grove Strider I did not mention, but because of all the ramp as well, it's very good. And at worst, it's a 5 mana 5/5, unless you have a creature that taps. But it's always good stats. Then the next few cards I didn't have in my list. So there's the Edge Rover, the Siege Ship Impact, for instance, all good cards. And eventually, for instance, the the U-Social Engineering. That's one that's missing out, and that's one's actually at the 2, 4, 6, 8th spot instead of the top 4. So, I had 2 of the 4 correct, and the other ones are actually pretty close. I think, to wrap it all up, I think I was actually pretty close, especially with the comments. I think I got a lot of them right. So I'm happy with my prediction and the way it went. I hope my predictions were also useful for you in any way in building your deck. I think the main reason that I missed out on some of them is because of the effect that lander tokens have on all the cards. Is it enter the battlefield artifact stuff, or is it being able to sacrifice artifacts, or is it ramp? All those things play into the cards that I missed. So, something I can learn and hopefully get better at next time. Now, if you like what I did, feel free to click some of those buttons because it really helps me out. And also feel free to leave feedback if you want. And I will hopefully see you the next time. Peace.
Grab the card, shuffle dreams in the palms. Dad's drafts roll heavy, we bombing like psalms. Stacks on the table, strategies to flex. Running these lines like counterspell checks. Dad drafts in the zone, pulling rares from the throne. Mana on the stack, magic seeds we've sown. From poppers to planeswalkers, the board gets owned. Welcome to Dad's drafts, your new homegrown. Welcome to Dad's drafts, your new homegrown.